Okay, Assalamu alaikum. So we are live.
Walaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum,
Walaikum assalam.
everyone. I'm Sana Rashid from Comics College, and I have with me Miss Uruj Yahya. And we have our students as well today in this fitness session. Shaz from second year commerce and Suheba from second year pre-engineering. How are you guys?
I'm doing well.
Okay, so let me introduce our today's guest, Mr. Shoaib Jamal. He's a UK certified martial artist and a manual therapist. Welcome
Hello.
to the session, sir. Hello. Welcome to the session, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Shaz has a lot of questions, like related to martial artists. Over to you, Shaz.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank you for your time, for being so gracious with it. So, without further ado, the first question I'd like to ask you is if you could tell us about your journey, how you got introduced to martial arts, and then how you got into having an MMA career, and then later on becoming a fitness instructor. If you could tell us a bit about your journey.
Well, I'll start with, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Anytime that I can answer any questions or share my story, it's always a good thing. So you know, we always have these pulls in life. You always get attracted to something. And for me, it was always competition. It was always some sort of martial art. So I got hooked into martial arts at a very young age, but it all boiled down to the fact that I grew up in an environment where I didn't get much positive validation in my life. I had people around me. I used to get bullied. I didn't get much validation at home from my parents. And whenever I was in an athletic environment, that's when I used to get validation. That's where I used to get praise. And because deep down within me, I always liked the aspect of competition. I felt like with martial arts, when you're competing against another person, there is no better feeling. So yeah, I got hooked into martial arts at I think I was 8 or 9 years old. I went through a series of like various martial arts. I started with Taekwondo, then I went to Kyokushin, then I went to England. I started doing Muay Thai. From Muay Thai, I traveled to wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, finally MMA. I always wanted to compete. Even when I started doing Kyokushin over here, I wanted to compete. I wanted to get that praise, that self-validation. It's always good in life when someone comes up to you and tells you that you're good at something. And that meant a lot for me. And apart from that, it's just human chess. It's very stimulating for me to go against, and it's like problem solving with very dire consequences. There is nothing. A lot of times people look at martial arts or competition side of things and they look at it as violence. This is not violence to me. This is problem solving at the highest level. In the event of a mistake,
I'm sorry, I
things
have a
would go
question to ask.
drastically on. Yeah,
Mr.
sure.
Sheth, yeah. See, you just a while you said that you did not get validation from your parents and from your friends, and you were bullied as well. You seem to be a handsome man. Why were you bullied for? What were you bullied for?
I was, well, before I forget, thank you for the compliment. Now, I'm susceptible to flattery, so just keep the compliment. It's always the case with bullies. They will make, when they see, because obviously I had a kind of an unstable relationship going on in my house. So I was a very shy, withdrawn kid. And with bullies, as you would know, because you're in that environment, you're in a college, you would see that bullies always pick on someone who's withdrawn, who is timid. And they would prey on my timidness. They would actually make fun of my looks. They would make fun of whatever they could find, whether it would my looks, the way I walked, the way I dressed, anything that they would pick up. So I was picked on a lot as a kid. And it continued to be that way. And you know what the worst thing was? That I used to get picked on by the people that I thought were my friends. I thought they were my friends. And I used to be in that environment. And because obviously they used to pick on me, then everyone else used to pick on me. And I didn't know any better. So I kind of allowed that to happen. So till I discovered myself and I developed myself into the human being that I am. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, I can't stand up for anything, If I don't agree with someone, I will tell them straight up that I don't agree with a particular point. And martial arts has actually helped me in that way. It has actually shown me how to stand up for myself. So yeah, it was that. But yeah, so from martial arts, the journey from the MMA side of things, from competing to going to the manual therapy side of things, the way that it happened is because with a lot of things in life, I found my fix, a temporary fix, was working out, was exercising, and I was doing it too much. And like you always know, know that too much of anything is not good. So I got injured. I had to undergo some therapy sessions and whatnot. And any time that I went to someone and I paid them for a session, whether it be physiotherapy or whether it be manual therapy, I came back worse off. Like I was more unhappy before I went to see them. So I wanted to help myself and I wanted to help other people as well. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to learn manual therapy for myself so I can fix myself. And once I started doing that, I tried to help other people as well. So that's my link from MMA to manual therapy. And I still train every day and I still want to compete. I still have that drive. I still have that fire of competition within me that still burns on my belly.
Okay. So we have got a lot of questions related to manual therapy and the therapies you're referring to, but I think our student moderator, Shes, has a lot of questions related to martial arts. So you talk about martial arts first. I'll ask Shes to float questions towards related to that, and then we'll be talking about manual therapy. Yes,
Shes. One of my favorite topics, martial arts. Shoot.
My favorite topic too. Okay, so following up on your story, there are many kids who get bullied. And what do you think is the significance of learning martial arts for defending themselves and standing up for themselves, like you said, and from girls' point of view? Because it's not really common in our culture for girls to start learning martial arts and then competing as well. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, competition is not always essential, but learning it is. There's this guy called Sun Tzu. You'd rather be a warrior, a soldier in a garden than be a gardener in a war, right? So acquiring a set of skills that will help you throughout life, it's always brilliant. And the way that any kind of martial art, like, the way they do it at the gym as well, we have programs for kids that do kickboxing, boxing and stuff like that for young age groups. They give you a sense of confidence. They make you realize that you're not as weak as you think you are. And for people who are really, and on the flip side, it is also very good for bullies, because with a lot of bullies, it's issues at home that they can't address. So it's actually a place where you learn your weaknesses and your strengths and you develop them. You realize that you're not, because I've noticed a lot, because we live in a very sheltered life now. Everyone thinks that they are the best. They are the strongest. They can get away with anything in life. But that's not true. And when you come in a martial arts environment, you realize that firsthand, because there are consequences to your actions. You learn discipline. You learn how to strengthen your body. You learn perseverance. All these things, all these attributes are strong attributes that lead to a strong individual, and they also help, because you're in that environment, to extinguish the whole thing of bullying and judging someone and picking on someone.
Okay, so hang on, Shaz, I'm sorry. How safe martial arts is for girls? Like, I want my daughter to enter martial art, but at the same time, I want her to stay unharmed. So is it really possible?
Of course it's possible. So with like everything in life, you have to find the right person to teach you. There are so many people around that do these online courses, or a week course, or a 2 weeks course, and they think that they're certified, or they have enough knowledge and wisdom to teach these arts, but that's not really true. These things are taught to people, and it takes a very long time for you to develop and understand the skill that you require to be able to do these things properly. So yeah, if you take your kid, if you send your daughter to a gym, a good facility like we have over here at MYGYM, she'll be healthy, she'll be strong, and inshallah she'll be away from harm's way.
All right, good. Yes, you were asking something.
Yeah. Okay. So following up on that, if someone wants to start martial arts, let's say a kid or a young teenager, which particular martial art would you recommend to develop as a base? Like most people think it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu, but as a fellow striker, would you recommend striking over grappling?
Well, it depends what your goals are. If you want to do MMA, there is nothing better than wrestling. I mean, wrestling is one of my favorite sports, and in England, the place that I go to where they do wrestling, they say, wrestling puts hair on your chest. It makes a man out of you. That doesn't mean that women don't do it. So it's just a saying. It doesn't actually happen. Okay. So, we have programs for girls as well. And don't worry, you're not going to get any more masculine. But yeah, for me, if you're going to do MMA, wrestling is the best thing to do because it's the perfect base. You learn how to fight standing, you learn how to fight going down. But to each their own. Some people don't like wrestling. Some people like boxing. Some people like kickboxing. So you need to find a facility where everything is done.
Okay. So talking about martial arts and the competition aspect of it, in Pakistan, there's not a lot of scope, to be honest. Like, there are not many people who have made a career out of it. What would you like to say about martial arts and its growing market in Pakistan and how we can, accelerate it in a certain way?
I mean, someone who has been involved in this for a very long time, it is a very tough environment to be in. And you need, like everything else in life, you need such a big support structure around you. It's one of those things, you always need a team. Regardless of whether it's martial arts or it's in life, you need these people around you that will help you, that will give you a gentle push to actually make you go forward. And that's what the problem is in Pakistan, where everyone is like, like we were talking about, positive validation and me growing up. One of the things that I always used to stick in my head was that if you were not an A+ student, you were not good at all. You were considered a loser. You were considered a failure, right? So sometimes in martial arts and stuff like that, you have to come across losses in order to learn from them because you learn more from your losses. Apart from that, the scope is actually getting better. There are loads of competition. There are loads of events coming where actually people can go and fight. The only issue is there's not enough people to teach them properly, which is why we are way far behind in terms of competition, in terms of technique, in terms of talent, in comparison to the rest of the world. It is a very cutthroat world to begin with anyway. You need a good manager. You need good people around you that are going to find you good training partners, that are going to find you good events so you can fight in those events and learn your skill set, improve your skill set and make some money along the way.
All right. So shares, because Miss Sana and Suhaiba, they have been, they have been silent participants in the conversation.
Yes.
I would like to engage them as well.
Bored.
Yeah. So Heba and Sana, if you want to ask any questions related to manual therapy, you're more than welcome.
Look, I have a question. Like, is there any difference between a physiotherapy and manual therapy, or are they both same?
Well, manual therapy is where you use certain techniques. The only difference is the physiotherapist usually only entails working on certain exercises and assessments, whereas manual therapy, I'm working with breaking fascia and tissues. Breaking fascia and relieving tension within the tissues. The technique that works for me, I incorporate some exercises along with my sessions as well. So I kind of dive into that realm where some people will call it physiotherapy as well. So they're very similar, but just slight difference.
Slight difference. And what about massage therapy? Is it comes under this manual therapy? Massage therapy and physiotherapy and pain therapy are all the same.
Yes, these things are all interrelated. These things are all kind of connected, right? Not massage therapy. Massage therapy is like, you're relieving, you're making someone more relaxed and stuff like that. Manual therapy more works with like, if there's pain, so in terms of pain management, if there's an injury, in terms of managing the injury, in terms of relieving tension, in terms of relieving fascia and things like that, that's where manual therapy comes in. Whereas massage therapy, it's a very vague term because it branches out into so many different things. So I would relate manual therapy more towards the realm of physiotherapy rather than massage therapy.
Okay. So Heba, you have any questions?
Yes.
So Heba?
Heba, wake up.
Are the techniques used?
I think our connection is not stable,
Hello?
Sana. Our connection. Yeah, Shoaib, we can hear you now. Yes, please go on.
Yes. Sir, I had a question that are manual therapy techniques different for different age groups?
Well, it doesn't depend on the age. It definitely depends on the person. There are different techniques used with the age, not the age of the person, but how much pain they're in. Because there might be someone who's very young, and they are encompassing a lot of pain. Let's say in the neck, right? So I will have to use a different technique in comparison to someone who's older but doesn't have that much pain in their neck. Does that make sense? So it always depends on the person. Ideally, in my therapy, the way that I work with people, I don't want them to be in too much pain. So I will use different techniques to address the individual rather than what age they are in. So it's the issue that's addressed and the individual that's addressed rather than the age group.
All right. So, can your manual therapy help teachers who, during COVID days, we teachers, had to sit in front of our computer screen for hours and hours. So, do you have any manual therapy specifically for such teachers who are suffering from backache and neck pain and shoulder pain?
The treatment that I do, especially with instrument-associated tissue mobilization, that only works in person, but there are loads of exercises that I have that help with mobility. So for example, if you've been sitting in front of a screen for far too long, there are certain exercises, there are certain stretches that you could do that will help with the mobility to feel you more relaxed. Because what happens is you're sitting in a posture which is not very natural for you. And when you sit in that over time and your body is not strong enough to hold you in a stable position, you develop a pain because you're tired. Your muscles become very tense. And if you don't relieve that tension, it just becomes worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then at one stage, you just start having spasms in your back or in your neck.
All right. Yes, yes.
I'll take over now. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that there's a misconception about martial arts and MMA in particular, that it's pretty violent. And Ms. Rouge also mentioned earlier that is it safe for us and is it safe for her daughter and our kids? There is a fixed set of rules in MMA with which we compete. For reference, we can use the fight in UFC 259, Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. It ended with a disqualification. I think you saw that fight.
Yeah.
So there's a fixed set of rules. Can you emphasize on that?
So like any controlled sport, like any controlled environment, there are a set of rules that you can abide by. This is not the jungle, as a lot of people think. They just see someone punching another person in the face and they're like, oh, there are no rules. These are barbaric savages, which unashamedly, I admit that deep down, I am a savage, but I abide by the rules. So like any other sport, there are rules. There are things that you have to abide by. And they are for protection of the athletes. So, for example, the fight that you're referring to, a guy kneed another guy when he was on the floor, which is not allowed. So all these rules are in place for competition. In terms of training, because it's a controlled environment, it's not like everyone comes in and it's like a free-for-all buffet of lunch boxes flying, fists hitting each other's head in the, you're kicking someone in the face. It doesn't work like that. So when you come to a session, you learn techniques. You go through these complex exercises that show you how to use your own body. They develop coordination, they develop a balance, they develop strength. And they give you confidence, because what better way of feeling confident than knowing that if something goes wrong, you know what your body is capable of. You know what you are capable of doing. You're capable of protecting yourself.
Okay. So when you were young, when you were maybe my age or even younger, and you were a martial artist, so who was one fighter that you looked up to? And like, what can you tell us about your favorite fighter at that time?
Are you asking as an individual or as an athlete?
Your choice. You can answer in both ways.
Well, because it's the answer is different. As an athlete, I really look up to this athlete called. There's two of them actually. One guy is called Cain Velasquez, and the other guy is called George St. Pierre. So those
Okay.
are the two guys that I really look up to. Similar kind of styles, but I really like Cain Velasquez because he's this absolute machine of a man, and GSP is this very controlled, smart individual, which is the perfect definition of an athlete, of a mixed martial artist. If you look how he talks, he's very eloquent. If you look how he is, he's very humble. If you look how he fights, he's very calculated. There's no going around punching people randomly in the head and all that stuff. It's very calm, collected, calculated. As it's not very surprising, but there are so many individuals. Obviously, it's that kind of sport that you need to be very mentally tough. We're all scarred to some extent, but there's so many people who rise above it. The one person that comes to mind that I look up to, who was very mentally strong, was Muhammad Ali. Actually, he went through so much, but he never let go of his dream, of his goal. And how can you not respect a man who will stand up for what he believes in, regardless of the consequences? A lot of people look up to him because he's another Muslim, and they're like, oh yeah, he's a Muslim and he's a fighter and he made big, and yeah, we love him because he's one of us. But if you look into him, how can you not respect a man who will go against a whole nation, defending what he believes in? And he let his boxing career go down the drain, and he went to prison for what he believed in. How can you not respect a man like that? It takes big cojones to be like that.
Can we talk a little about diet as well? I mean, what diet you suggest to those who are looking to enter martial art?
Well, the diet that would apply to someone who's looking to enter to martial arts or someone who's living the normal life is not very different. You just control. So I have this big, like, one of my pet peeves are that people have these fad diets. Someone's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm doing keto, I'm doing intermittent fasting, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing Atkinson. Rubbish. All right. All these phases come in and go out of fashion. All right. It's all rubbish. So the only thing that matters is calories in versus calories out. You eat more calories than you burn, you're going to gain weight. You eat less calories and you burn more, you're going to lose weight. It's very simple. So if your energy output requires you to eat more, you eat more. If it requires you to eat less, you eat less. All right. Obviously, you eat more green vegetables. Obviously, you eat less dairy, less meat. You eat more beans, you eat more mushrooms, you eat more green stuff, and just be healthy. Don't drink too many Pepsis. Don't have too many Karhais and Niharis. Yes, Aruj, why did you make that face? Is that your thing? Are you one of those people that's having Nihari every day?
You mean to say that the ones who are interested in martial art, they don't have to eat biryani and korma and desi foods like these?
Well, they can eat it, but if you want to be lean and if you want to be fit, your body is, I mean, we're built in such ways that it's amazing, right? You can eat the most rubbish of diets and your body will still find a way to work. But it's not going to be optimum. For you to be optimum, if you want your car to run fast, you put high octane in it. So if you want your body to work well, why would you put Nihari in it? Why would you put Pepsi in it? Right? It's the same analogy. It's same stuff. And then people will go on and they'll be like, yeah, I'm going to have keto and I'm going to lose a ton of weight and I'm going to be healthy. And then 6 months later, where did the keto go? Nowhere.
Yeah. True.
Okay,
But I think
Yes,
intermittent fasting is effective.
intermittent fasting.
Listen,
Yeah,
the only thing that I don't like about the intermittent fasting thing is why make your life more harder than it already is? Why not just eat a controlled amount and just go? Why do people have to invent all these things? You know, intermittent fasting, keto, Atkinson, juice diets, cleansing, detoxing. Why?
See, there is
Why
one
not?
thing. Intermittent fasting would allow you to eat whatever you feel like eating in that 8 hours.
Yeah, but
window.
you're going to be hungry later on, and there's going to be a week. There's going to be a weekend or a week where you're just going to make up for all of that, and you're not going to be able to sustain it for long periods because you're always hungry. You will feel hungry because you're not eating for a long period of time. And then how long are you going to stay disciplined? When you go to someone's house and they're offering you biscuits, you're going to be like, all right, let me have one. All right, I'm hungry, I'll have 2. All right, I'm hungry, I'll have the whole pack.
Yeah.
So why not just portion control? Just make your life simple. We've got so many things. We live a very high-paced lifestyle, right? You've got so many things to work on. You've got so many things to do. As young kids, you've got, you know, places to go, people to see. As older people, you've got places to go and people to see, right? And you've got things to manage in the house and work in your studies or whatever. Why make life more complicated? Just do portion control. Just measure what you eat, make a plan and stick with it. Make a routine when you work out every day. We actually missed out. I mean, I'm inventing a question myself. We actually kind of missed out talking about, you know, how this all kind of gems in. But like working out is so important. It is so important. Like eating right is important, but working out is equally as important. Like little things. Did you know that high intensity workouts will help you remember more stuff? It helps your memory. So if you work out, if you learn something and then you work out, your brain will remember it faster, and it will retain that information after you worked out as well later on. There are so many, you know, being healthy, being fit. As young people, it's good because you develop this engine, you develop this strength.
Would you please explain on high intensity workout? What do you mean by that? Can a woman like me indulge in high intensity workout?
Not straight away. Everyone's athletic base is very different. So if you go to someone who is a half decent trainer, he's not going to make you do crazy workouts straight away. You build yourself slowly and gradually. Rome was not built in a day, neither is your body. So you develop your engine, you develop your gas tank, you develop your cardiovascular system, you develop your muscular resistance and your strength. And then you go to these crazy high intensity workouts that everyone is raving about.
All right.
But
yes.
From where do we need motivation for exercise?
Yeah.
So everyone is different, but if you have a goal in mind and you remind yourself of that goal regularly, you will stay on the path. If you want to get an A grade, that's your goal. If you remind yourself that this is what I need to do, you do it. Just like for young kids, I don't know what the latest gadget is. I'm not that big on gadgets, but let's say you've got the latest iPhone coming out. You will save up. You will pester your parents because that's your goal. As silly as it sounds, that's a goal. So you set yourself small goals and you achieve those goals. And you set your goals so they're easily achievable. You don't set a task that is so hard that it will be achievable in a year's time. You set yourself small weekly goals that you can easily achieve so you can get that fix, so you can get that validation that keeps you on the path. Otherwise, you have to be way more disciplined.
All right. So can we now engage Suhaiba in conversation? Suhaiba, can you hear us? You prepared a lot of questions related to manual therapy. Yes,
Yes, miss. Yes. Sir, I had a question.
Yes.
Yes, I had a question that when does one know?
connection problem.
I
We
think
can't
she
hear
has a
Suhaiba
connection
anymore.
problem.
Yes. We are back.
Okay, back to the fun stuff. Yeah.
fun stuff for you. Yes, please.
Okay,
Go
so you mentioned Cain Velasquez and a fellow AKA fighter, Habib Nurmagomedov, who just recently retired. He's been having rumors of fighting your idol, George St. Pierre. What do you have to think about that fight?
I don't think that fight's going to happen.
But what if it happened? Who are you picking?
GSP.
Really? How do you think that's going to play out? How do you think that's going to play out?
He is much more well-rounded as a fighter than Khabib. Khabib's pressure is immense, and I love the way he fights, and I love his cage control. But I don't think he takes GSP down. And if he takes him down, I don't think he keeps him down. Whereas I know that GSP can take him down, and he can strike with him as well.
Okay, so the guy we're talking about, Habib, for those of you who don't know,
I mean, it's not very hypothetical. It can go the other way as well. Khabib finishing him straight away. It's a fight.
That's my pick, actually. I think Habib finishes him. But talking about that, another fellow Muslim athlete who is considered an icon in our culture. How significant do you think is that? Like a guy like that who is a good role model, who carries himself properly as a martial artist. How do you think that impacts our market in Pakistan and in India and all those countries where there are many Muslim kids who can look up to him and follow him?
Amazing. I love the guy. I love the guy. He is amazing for the sport. He is amazing for Islam because he depicts it in such a good way. Because we live in a time frame where people are always frowning on Islam. People are always trying to find negatives, and then we've got an athlete who will bring it to light in mainstream and make it more acceptable. It's amazing. It's amazing for everyone. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. It actually is. I mean, I really like him as a person. I really like him as a fighter. He's an amazing individual. He's so lucky to be in that position as well. There are so many people who would long for it, to be in a position where people look up to you, where you can be a role model, where you can make a true difference. It is an amazing thing. It's an amazing feeling.
Okay, so you touched the topic of diet. So there's a concept of doing a big weight cut before your fights, just a day before your fights. So you have weights, and you have to cut a lot of weight, which is not exactly your body fat, it's the water weight that you have to cut out. What is your take on that? What do you think? How much weight should the fighters actually cut? And how
I do not cut more than 4 to 5 kilos in a day. That being because I don't want to be that dehydrated. Because your body puts the weight back on, but your brain doesn't. And I like being healthy. I like being active. So I don't like cuts. I know people in my gym that I used to train in England where they cut more than 10 kilos in the last week of the fight. This does not give you any ideas, ladies. Don't think you can drop 10 kilos in a week and be healthy.
That's a completely different thing.
Before I can already see the twinkle in your eyes. Before Uruj and Sana start saying, how do we lose 10 kilos? Can you tell our audience? No.
I tried losing weight a number of times, but every time I failed, unfortunately. Anyway,
come to the gym. Come to the gym. There's so many trainers there. They'll definitely help you achieve your goal. There's this trainer called Salim. He's quite good. He usually is in the mornings. So you should come try to get a session with him. He's pretty good at the gym. At my gym.
I have a serious question for you. See, in the beginning of the conversation, you talked about your bitter experiences which made you find your niche in life. So what about the ones who do not have any bitter experiences in life? How would you motivate them to come towards martial art? To become a martial artist?
It teaches you mental resolve. That's the most important thing. It humbles you. We are living around a society where everyone thinks we have had a very light-hearted and a good discussion. But I'm sure you've heard of so many instances where students are fighting and the people are getting hurt and all this, that, the other. Being involved in martial arts actually humbles you. It makes you realize you're not all that. No one is. It teaches you discipline. It makes you mentally tough. It makes you understand that good times are to enjoy and bad times are to endure. So you can build yourself into something strong. This discipline, this resolve comes through martial arts. Like I said in the beginning, Sun Tzu is one of the greatest military generals known to man. He has this book, which is really famous. All right, and Sun Tzu says that you'd rather be a soldier in a garden than a gardener in a war. So all these things, they help. They help. They make you tough. They make you realize that your body is not brittle. You are strong. Everyone is. It helps you realize how humble you should be. It helps you realize how disciplined you should be.
All right. See, what our practice is, whenever we arrange a session, we inform students as well as their parents that there is going to be, a Facebook live session. And most of parents are bilingual. So I want you to give them some tips in Urdu, because we have to check whether you are equally good at Urdu as well.
In regards to, I have many tips. I don't want to sound like big-headed, but I have many tips. What you just asked me a question in regards to what would be applicable, and I'll just answer that in Urdu. How about that?
ठीक है, but Sana, you'll have to check the comment section. If you have any questions in Urdu, you can float it towards Mr. Shoaib Jamal.
Okay.
Yes,
Some of the comments are funny.
let's check
in the
my
meanwhile,
Urdu skills.
in the
Let me
meanwhile,
flex my
I'll
Urdu muscle.
ठीक है. In the meanwhile, I'll request Shes to continue with questions related to martial arts.
I can go all day.
Of course, this is
Okay.
like the best thing for him. Keep
Okay,
them
so-
coming, Chad. Keep them coming.
I'll keep on coming. Okay, so talking, you touched on the subject of all these new gyms that are opening everywhere around the city, and they're handing out new belts. And like, if you go to a karate gym and you pay the fees for 2 months, you'll be an orange belt. Like, there won't be a problem. There won't be proper testing, and you can get a black belt, which is it's gonna sketch you.
You know why? Because it's so commercialized. The same thing happened with religion as well. And maybe this is a bad analogy that I'm putting martial arts and religion. There's no relation, all right? But even when there's religion involved, people start to materialize things and it waters religion down. Same way, whenever money becomes the monetary thing, the sole driving force for you or for any person sorting out, things just depend on the money. And how do you make consistent flow? You sell belts. All right, I see these kids in news. A 10-year-old kid is a black belt. How can a 10-year-old kid be a black belt? There's no way. All right. So there are loads of these gyms that are there. They don't have the proper expertise. They don't have the proper knowledge. They are selling stuff. They're not selling you knowledge. They're not selling you wisdom. They're not selling you stuff that you're going there to learn. They're selling you these belts, these things that you can put on social media and get clout. So yeah, there's loads of these gyms about, and that's why you need to find the right environment. You need to find the right gym. I mean, over here at my gym, we don't sell belts. You've got to come down here and you've got to earn. That's one thing that is still valid in sports like, to some extent, in sports like jiu-jitsu and sambo, because in sambo, you can't buy a belt. There are no belts in sambo. You're either an international master of sport or you're not. In jiu-jitsu, there are belts and there's grades and depends on the instructor. A lot of times now it's becoming more monetary as well, which is why it's so important to find the right people, the right teachers.
Sir, there is a question in the comment section and I really liked it. It's about girls. Are there any self-defense steps that a girl can learn?
Are there any?
1,000,001. By the way, before I go on, is this meant to be answered in English or Urdu?
Urdu mein kar de answer.
Urdu mein karte hain.
Urdu mein.
You're in a challenging mood for me. All right. Well, I will disappoint you because I'm equally well versed in Urdu. Yeah. So बहुत सारी टेक्निक्स हैं जो यूज कर सकती हैं लड़कियां भी. हर चीज की तरह जिंदगी में it depends on the situation पर डिपेंड करता है. सिचुएशन पर डिपेंड करता है. मैं कभी भी ये नहीं बोलूंगा कि एक लड़की एक दो चीजें सीख के जो है वो जाके कोई भी उसको अभी सुनने में तो इतना नहीं आता कि लोग मोबाइल छीनने आते हैं, लेकिन अगर कोई खुदा ना खास्ता आता है मोबाइल छीनने के लिए तो नहीं, उसकी गन छीन के उसको 1-2 मारो और उसी गन से उसका मोबाइल छीन लो. नहीं. The best thing to do is to create a situation where you're not in that environment. So there are loads of techniques which I or any of the other martial arts trainers at this gym will be more than happy to demonstrate. But the best thing to do is just kind of not be involved in those situations and try your best that if you do, God forbid, get involved in that situation, you know how to defend yourself and leave that environment as quickly and as safely as possible.
Okay, because we have the last 20 minutes of conversation and I've been receiving messages on my WhatsApp. People are telling me to keep this conversation bilingual so they could also understand and relate to it. This is why I told you to answer this question in Urdu. Yes, Chess, थोड़ा सा मार्शल आर्ट से हटके कोई थेरेपी के मुतालिक भी बात कर लेते हैं ताकि हमें भी समझ आए और हमारा फायदा भी हो जाए.
सही है.
कोई मसला नहीं. कोई भी क्वेश्चन हो आप क्वेश्चन पूछते रहे, मैं उसका जवाब देता रहूं.
जबरदस्त हो गया. ठीक है जी. यस सुहेबा.
Yes, Shoaib.
Yes, sir. Yes, I have a question that how does one know that he needs to go ahead and facilitate from this manual therapy sessions similar to what you provide, the facilities?
Okay, your voice was cutting out. I think you're asking
Am I
me
able?
what someone needs to do, how someone realizes that they need a therapy session. Was that your question?
Yes.
हाँ यही मेरा
Yes.
ख्याल है, यही सवाल है
Yes,
बिल्कुल.
that's what.
Okay,
Yes.
so your body has a way of communicating with you. When you are in pain or you feel not normal, you do an activity that's more painful that a few days back was not painful. That's when you give me a call. The worst thing sometimes people do is वो तकलीफ में होंगे वो कहेंगे नहीं बस तकलीफ है तो क्या हो गया बस सही है हम लोग चलते रहते हैं हम अपना काम करते रहते हैं. Your body is trying to tell you something is wrong. Address that problem. Try to fix it. That's like the biggest thing that people have forgotten how to communicate with their bodies. People have forgotten how to communicate, period. You don't even communicate properly with each other as individuals, as human beings. But it's worse so with your own bodies as well. If you feel pain, if you feel discomfort, if you feel less mobility that you felt a couple of days before, get it checked, book a session. Your health matters more than anything else. Your health matters more than money. Your health matters more than food, a date you're going to go to, a movie you're going to watch with your friends.
कितना % पेन रिड्यूस हो जाता है मैनुअल थेरेपी से? Like अगर कोई
Alhamdulillah, I've had people who have had 100% response. I have had people who have had a 60% response. So it makes a big difference. It does. In one session. Can you
suggest some simple exercises like an arthritis patient can do at home?
I was about to ask this question. Arthritis. A lot of women.
There are loads of things that you could do, but because I need the person in front of me, I wouldn't advise something because I need to be physically present there to tell them what to do and what not to do. Because it bears a lot of, because obviously they're already compromised. They have an ongoing situation, a condition going on. And for me to just blindly, without seeing them, without how they're doing them, advise something, it would be unethical. So yeah, there are loads of exercises that you could do. You could do you could do wall sits, you could do step downs, you could do half squats. You could do work on your upper body as well. You could even work in a swimming pool. You could go in a swimming pool and actually walk in a swimming pool, run in a swimming pool, because that would alleviate the weight. When you're in a pool, you don't put the same amount of weight on your joints, but you create resistance. So that builds your muscle strength and that also builds your cardio system.
But all of these exercises are, I think, are meant for young people. Wall sit वगैरह ये सारा हमारी अम्मियाँ कैसे 50-60 साल के तो लोग नहीं कर सकते ये सब.
क्यों उनको आप क्यों डिप्राइव कर रही हैं? उनका दिल नहीं है.
मुझे
already stiff joint or inflammation बहुत ज़्यादा होते हैं.
जिस तरह मैंने पहले बोला कि ये बहुत सारी एक्सरसाइजेस ये डिपेंड करती हैं. मैं आपको कोई ऐसी एक्सरसाइज एडवाइस नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि मेरे सामने एक इंडिविजुअल प्रेजेंट नहीं है. जब मेरे सामने एक इंडिविजुअल प्रेजेंट होगा तो तब मैं बता सकता हूँ कि आप ये कर सकते हैं, ये नहीं कर सकते, आपकी बॉडी अलाउ कर सकती है, नहीं कर सकती, आप इस तरह चलें, इस तरह बेंड हो, इस तरह ये एक्सरसाइज करें, इसका ये फॉर्म है. मैं अभी कोई चीज बोलूं और कल को कोई और ऐसी करना शुरू कर दे तो वो वेरी अनएथिकल होगा. This is a very vague example.
In the comment section, one of our
what
friends,
to do in knee pain.
Yeah, she has asked what to do in knee pain. What to do
Book
when you're
a manual therapy session. Get in touch with me.
Oh, okay, all right.
Diet help नहीं करेगी इसका मतलब है क्या?
नहीं, diet नहीं help करेगी.
लेकिन अगर हम लोग knee pain वाले
लेकिन बाकी चीजों में डाइट हेल्प जरूर हेल्प करेगी.
अच्छा, yes, you were saying something.
जैसे अगर नी पेन के टॉपिक को टच करें तो जिस तरह कुछ लोगों को शोल्डर्स के इशू होते हैं, कुछ लोगों को नी पेन के इशू होते हैं, तो सर्टेन एक्सरसाइजेज होती हैं जो आपको अवॉइड करनी चाहिए. लाइक आई डोंट थिंक पीपल हु हैव नी पेन शुड डू हैवी स्क्वाट्स. लाइक आप उसके ऊपर थोड़ा सा एम्फसाइज कर सकते हैं कि कौन सी एक्सरसाइजेज हैं जो किस पेन में नहीं करनी चाहिए.
देखें, आप कोई भी एक्सरसाइज ले लें, भले वो जितनी भी सेफ हो, अगर आप उसको अनमॉनिटर्ड विदाउट एनी गाइडेंस करें तो आप एट अ रिस्क हैं. आप किसी भी रिप्यूटेबल जिम में जाएं, जिस तरह हम हैं यहाँ पे MYGYM पे, तो यहाँ पे बहुत सारे क्वालिफाइड ट्रेनर्स हैं जो आपको हेल्प करेंगे, जो आपको मॉनिटर करेंगे, जो आपको बताएंगे कि किस एक्सरसाइज के लिए कौन सा फॉर्म चाहिए ताकि आप इंजरी फ्री रहे। और अगर खुदा न खास्ता आपको इंजरी हो गई है तो फिर आप एक सेशन बुक करें, या आप सेशन नहीं भी बुक करना चाहते तो आप एक ऐसे ट्रेनर के पास जाएं जो आपको उस हिसाब से गाइड कर सके, ताकि वो आपकी बॉडी की जो कैपेबिलिटीज है उसके हिसाब से। जो मैंने एग्जांपल दिया था ना वॉल सिट्स का, वो मैंने इसीलिए दिया था क्योंकि एज अ जेनेरिक वे, मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा कि जिसको भी नी पेन है वो जाके वॉल सिट्स करना शुरू कर दें। आपके साथ एक ट्रेनर हो जो आपको असेस करे, आपके पास कोई थेरेपिस्ट हो जो आपको देख के बताए कि आप क्या कर सकते हैं क्या नहीं कर सकते। लेकिन बहुत सारी एक्सरसाइजेस हैं ऐसी जो आप कर सकते हैं नी पेन के साथ।
अच्छा, we have got a very technical question in the comment section जो मुझे इतना ज़्यादा समझ नहीं आ रहा है, but I'm sure कि Mr. Shoaib Jamal would be able to make sense of it.
Google.
Anusha says, are there any evidence-based guidelines for the management of sympathetic reflex dystrophy?
There are some guidelines, but it's one of those things that we're entering that realm of vagueness. Every individual is different, and I can't give specific advice. I feel very uncomfortable giving that, because if I say something that is not completely applicable to someone, and then I get quoted on that, it doesn't feel right. So yeah, I can't give generic advice that fits it.
No problem. ये जो manual therapies है, क्या ये emotional stress से या work stress से भी relieve हो सकते हैं हम by taking manual therapies?
Okay, your voice completely went. I couldn't understand the question, but I think you meant that kya work related, emotional related stress.
Yeah.
Manual therapy. So a lot of times I have in my experience, a lot of times when people are really stressed, they develop neck pain and they have tight traps. They develop pain through that leads to neck pain. So yeah, there are situations, there are times when your work or your personal life related or physical stress or emotional stress can lead to problems that can be fixed via manual therapy. Yes.
All right. Yes, Sana. Sana, among us, I think she is the most diet conscious person. And I think she has a lot of questions to ask related to that. She does intermittent fasting, I know. Yes. And she suggested the same to me as well. And
no, did I touch a nerve with intermittent fasting?
Ji, Sana.
Is that why you're upset, Sana?
Black coffee. No, I'm not upset at all. I want to ask, is black coffee effective?
In terms of what?
In losing weight?
In terms of in losing weight or healthy diet pay.
I mean, black coffee has its advantages, but it's not going to significantly lose your weight. There is no such, there is no magical ingredient or like a diet that suddenly you start having that and you're going to start losing weight straight away. It all depends on calories in and calories out. You burn more and you eat less and you will lose weight. It's very simple. People just make it more complicated because it's hard.
So Heba, do you have any question?
Ji, yes.
Sir,
can
you please? Hello. Yes. Can you list the do's and don'ts in a workout plan for anyone who has started with the workout schedule and schedule?
For anyone of your age or for anyone
never
of
do
my age?
Too much. Never do too much. A lot of times what people will do, because they're so excited to achieve their goals, that all that motivation they have that should last a month, they finish it in the first week. So never do too much that you feel miserable afterwards. Just do enough that you achieve your caloric deficit and you enjoy the process. A lot of times people feel miserable because they've pushed themselves so much and so soon that they're likely to injure themselves and then not enjoy the process. And then 2 days later they're sore and they're like, "Main kyun gym jaun? Itna thaka hu, पूरा दिन मैं स्कूल में था या पूरा दिन मैं ऑफिस में था, अब मैं जिम जाऊं. No. Keep yourself focused, keep yourself driven, but do enough to achieve your goals, not too much. Go slowly and steadily and consistently.
All right.
Be
So
consistent.
I think we have asked Mr. Shoaib Jamal a lot of questions. Shez, before we conclude the session, I would ask you whether you have any more questions to ask him. Shez.
Obviously, the answer is yes.
Yes. A long list of questions.
That's fine. I'm happy to answer.
Shez, your mic is mute. You need to unmute your mic.
Okay. I've unmuted my mic. So let's start with this. For someone who wants to work on their conditioning and power and speed, what are the drills that you would recommend for conditioning, power, and speed?
So, for your conditioning, there is nothing better than sprints. And hill sprints, amazing. Sprinting will help you with your speed as well. It will also develop your engine. Like, you're going to develop your fitness as well. Sprinting is one of the best ways to develop hamstring strength as well. So yeah.
All right. So we have got a question from Saad Salman, because he's one of my students. I think I should be floating this question towards the guest. So Saad Salman is asking, any workout plan to become eligible for getting selected in commando?
Well, to answer that question, I would need to know what the requirements are for the commando program.
I don't know. Yes.
I mean, there are so many there are so many plans that are applicable. We have so many trainers over here. So I'll give you a little bit of background about the gym, right? We are so focused on results at MYGYM that we have this policy when a new member comes in that if you don't achieve results within 3 months, your membership gets, it just finishes, it expires. So if you have a task which requires certain goals, you find someone who can push you in that way. And this place is the best place for that.
All right. I think we should.
But yeah, I'm sorry for the person, because I don't know what the commando program requirements are. If I knew, I would definitely be able to help.
He left just one sentence question in the comment section, and I thought I should be asking you, because I myself do not know much about martial arts. Thank you very much, Mr. Shoaib Jamal, for finding time for us.
No problem.
The moment we contacted you, you were so generous, and you were so interesting in doing this particular session. I'm so grateful to you on behalf of our principal and on behalf of the whole Comics College. Thank you very much. Shez, would you like to say something, Mr.
It's a pleasure. Everyone at MYGYM, and especially the owner, he was really happy that, because we promote this lifestyle, we want young people and old people and middle-aged people and kids, everyone to be active. We have so many plans, we have so many programs that cater to everyone. So everyone at the gym, especially me, especially the owner at the gym as well, we were all very excited to have you guys on board, so we can avail this opportunity to promote healthy lifestyle among the young generation.
All right, thank you very much, sir. And I'm sure that my fellow moderators are equally grateful to you.
Right.
Thank you. So this is where we would like to call it a day. Yes, Sana, you can end the broadcast. Thank you.
Shez is getting very upset. Shez, it's okay. You can come to the gym and you can ask me all these questions in person. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Don't be
before we end the session, I'd like to give a shout out to Anusha, because she's the only one who complimented me in the comments.
Yeah, who complimented you. And Sayyida,
hold on. No one complimented me. Where's my comment?
It's because of you that we are receiving.
All right, Shez, you're my guy. You just copy paste them and send them across.
Saad Salman is saying, how can we contact him? I think he's asking about you.
Saad, we are going to talk about it tomorrow, inshallah. Once we meet at the campus, I'll let you know as to how you can contact him. Thank you very much, everyone. So this is where we would like to
thank you so much.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Take care, guys. Good luck. Godspeed.
I like